immensely. I had to receive a call from us. So I wasn't trying to call you. Is it a good time for you to talk?
No, we can talk now.
Okay, perfect. So I'll give you a quick background about automation, and I think you're looking for coffee, probably you heard of us. But anyway, automation is America's largest car dealership. We have like 400 stores and we're expanding. We're also opening like new lines of businesses. So for example, we're creating our own branded stores called Automation USA, where we're selling used cars at fixed prices. We're getting into the supply chain business of being able to order parts and warehouse them. We're getting into like B2B and B2C type of businesses where customers will be able to order parts and accessories for their vehicles. And in order to accomplish all of this, we're opening a new IT office and we are rapidly expanding and hiring. So we're exciting times, a lot of new projects, pretty cool technology that we're looking to move to. So that's it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, the recent projects you've been working on and so on?
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much, for taking your valuable time today to talk to me. So I've been myself, I'm and been primarily working as a Java developer from past 6 to 7 years now. Actually, I have pretty hands-on experience working with entire SDLC, like designing, development of architecture, using design patterns like MVC and VPF, and also primarily using structural patterns like Proxy, and also doing test-driven development, primarily using Mockito and Power Mockito. And in the current project, I'm actually working for Cox Automotive. So I'm actually working on their API and infrastructure team. So as part of the current role, I could say on a day-to-day basis, 70% of my role actually works with development side, 20% on TDD, and just 10% in Agile. And right now it's a team of 4 people, 2 developers are based in Poland, in Europe, and 2 are based here. One of the lead developers for the project. And as part of the current role, I actually experience on working with Sprint and check therapy, implementing OR 2.0, also using Java 8 right now. Primarily using I could say something like generate lambda expression. And as part of the current role, I also have.
What does your project do? What is the application?
Yeah, sure. So the Cox Automotive, right? So primarily it's actually based in Atlanta. So what the project is it's something if you go to carmatch.com or Kelly Blue Book, you can actually buy the car and then you can look at all the records of the car that you're trying to buy. So the Cox Automotive will help you in getting the entire details of selling the cars and then kind of getting the report of the cars. So more like an e-commerce site for cars, for selling of the cars and automotive services that you can buy insurance and stuff like that. So the application is nothing but the entire application which is actually built on the e-commerce.
So this is built by Cox Automotive and sold to other car dealers, like a white label product?
Yes, I could say that, yes. So currently the application that I'm working on is actually called something like a dealer management system. It's called DMS. So what the DMS, dealer management system does is that it will actually list all the products from the website.
Okay, so you're working on the DMS.
Yep, that's correct. And the current backend is on
You couldn't back into that?
No, what did we know that?
So what was your specific contribution to that project?
Yes, specifically I was actually involved with the entire designing of the architecture. I was actually responsible for building the infrastructure from scratch. And right now I was also using Spring Boot, which is a microservices driven application right now. So I was actually involved with designing the architecture, development of the application, testing, and then all the way up to release. Primarily, I was also doing continuous integration, continuous delivery setup as well for this.
Okay, sounds great. Why are you looking to make a change?
Yeah, actually it's a contract rule, so I've been working with them. It's almost 2 years now, so actually a contract is coming to an end this Friday, so that's why I'm actually looking for a next contract role.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the Java text screen. I mean, we've got some Java questions here and some database questions here that we'll run through real quick.
Sure.
So why is Java a single inheritance language? What problem is Java trying to solve by not allowing multiple inheritance?
Yeah, actually, good question. So primarily, Java doesn't support like multiple inheritance because one of the interesting thing is that I could just give a very good example because say right now we have like three classes like X, Y, Z, right? And any type of ability to class implement more than one interface, then it will actually make sure that you're not kind of hitting any exceptions or any kind of performance issues like deadlock scenarios. And I say that one. And also the main purpose of like singular inheritance is to kind of like get entire data because if the class is inheriting from two different classes and then they have like say similar attributes, then I'm going to refer to the compiler and compiler doesn't know which of the both attributes should it refer to. So it's kind of like one of the implementations. So in general we use interfaces to achieve multiple inheritance in Java.
So what's that problem called where you said you have like your parent classes could have the same attributes or methods?
Like so if the class is inheriting directly from the similar attributes, you want to say that?
Yeah, what's that problem called?
Like it's like overloading or overriding, you must say that, or what is the term for that one?
No, that's okay. That's fine. So how do I mimic multiple inheritance in Java?
Yeah, so multiple inheritance primarily you use like interfaces, to kind of like multiple inheritance from the state or type of the multiple inheritance. So you can use like interfaces like I said to actually solve that issue.
Okay. How many interfaces can a class implement?
Like max number of interfaces for a class in Java.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. So it actually So it actually depends like what is the requirement. So I could say, for example, something like 2, depending upon like how many classes that I wanted to say. But generally say one class, one. If you're like a class and it's one class.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well. So the question is, how many interfaces can a class implement?
Yeah, your class can implement unlimited number of interfaces. And then one interface can access unlimited number of interfaces. But the best practice is don't implement so many interfaces in general way, so that can do unlimited.
Fair enough. What's the difference between dot equals and equal to in Java?
Like dot equals to and dot equal to? Yeah, sure. So the main difference, right, primarily double equal to is used to compare the object, and then double equal to return like something like a Boolean true, only if both references point to the same object. Whereas dot equal to it returns like false or like Boolean true or false based on the origin implementation. So that is primarily. And also we can use the double equal to operator for reference comparison and dot equals for content comparison. Want to see that?
Okay. So how do I override the dot equals method in Java? So let's talk about an example. Let's say I have a customer object. I write a customer class and I say I have a string first name, string last name, and string account number. And I ask you to write a dot equals method. How would you go about implementing it?
Exactly, that's a good question. So primarily, right, one of the general constructs is that if I wanted to override, let's say, the string, so I would say something like logical equality comparison. So I would say something like first would be itself like the same instance, that would be like a string instance, and then like I would do a type check for that one, and then use the double equal to operator to take if the argument is a reference to that particular object, and then like override that.
What's the signature of a dot equals method?
Like what is the dot signature means, like what is the important? You want to say? Yes, sure.
what
So
does that
signature.
method look like?
Okay. So it would have something like public boolean equals object and object. So an object is the object that you use to compare the string again. So it would have something like that. So signature. Public boolean equals object and object.
Okay. What other method do you override when you override the dot equals method?
Like what are the other methods?
Yeah. What's good practice
so
when I override dot
Like I could say
When I
something like
override-
best practices. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, let me finish. So when I override dot equals practice, when I override the dot equals method, best practice says that I should override another method. What is that other method?
Yeah, hash code. Because
Okay.
we can always use the hash code and equal command.
Okay. So let's talk about the same example. We had the customer object, first name, last name, and account number. So let's say, I do a great job with the dot equals method. I implement great in a dot equals method, which looks at the first name, last name, and account number. And then I get lazy and I decide to, when I implement a hash code, I say public int hash code and I say return 32. Okay? And then I take a million of these, or 100,000 or a million of, I don't think the number is important. I take a million of these objects, customers, which all have like individual, first name, last name and all that. And they all have the same hash code. And I stick them all into a hash map, where my key is the customer object. Okay? What's going to happen?
Yeah, then I think what would happen is that if the generated hash code values are equal for all the million objects, then then you have to override the equals method object for all the million ones. Because if you generally put that, then it will not be able to override that, and then it will prevent the class from functioning properly in conjunction, you could say, with all the hash-based collection, because you're using hash map for that.
But I already said I've overridden the equals method, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like the general principle is that you must override the hash code, right, in every class that overrides
Yeah, so I
the equals.
overrode the equals method, I overrode the hash code, but my hash code is a bad hash code which returns a constant. So in that scenario, what would happen?
Yeah, so that would be a violation of a general contract for object.hashcode. So then that will prevent from, the class functioning properly.
Okay, so moving on, what does the keyword final do in front of a variable, a method, and a class?
Yeah, so finally, right, the final keyword is that you are always allowed to initialize a final variable. So what it does is that if you're calling a method or an object stored on a final variable, it will actually have a reference for itself primarily, or that is one of the things. And the variable means if you make any variable as final, you cannot change the value of the final variable, it will be constant. And if you make any class final, you cannot extend it. And if you make a final method, you cannot override it finally. That's the thing.
Okay, so let's talk about an example here. Let's say I say final string s equal to car. Okay? And then in my code somewhere down below I say s equal to s plus fast. Right? So I want s to be cars fast. What would happen when I say s equal to s plus fast when s was final?
Yeah, then it means that no other class can extend that particular final class. And then the object reference, whenever you're saying yes plus that class, it will have the value that's already finalized, so you cannot change that value.
So what would happen when I type that out and I try to compile it or whatever? What would happen?
Yeah, then primarily the value cannot be changed, right? So you get a compiler error.
Okay. What are generics in Java?
Yes, so currently in the current project, I was actually implementing Generic, which is like I would say more like a new feature. So it actually has nothing but a method to operate an object. And also one cool thing about Generic is that they provide compile time, type safety. So that's one of the cool things with the Generic type. And it's kind of like more like a Generic class that is parameterized over different types, like element, number type, value.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you used Spring Boot?
In the current project, I was actually deploying like Spring Boot based, Spring Boot microservices driven application in Docker primarily.
Okay.
So I had
Can you tell me a little bit about Spring Boot? What is Spring Boot?
yes, sure. So particularly, right, so Spring Boot, it's like more like a standalone, production grade Spring based application that we can actually run. It's like more like a framework, or it's like more like a control container for the platform. So you can build an application. One of the cool things is that it has like production ready features like type check you can do. There is no code generation or XML configuration required with Spring Boot. And also it has like embedded Tomcat or like no need to deploy any WAR files. And also it provides like a lot of good forms to simplify even the Maven configuration. You can use the Spring Boot.
Okay, so what are dev tools in Spring Boot?
Yes, sure. So generally the Spring Boot dev tools, they actually have like a set of tools. Like what they do is that they can make the application development much more easier. So I generally use the Spring Boot dev tools module. I try to include in every additional development. So I just add a module dependency to my build and then use the dev tools, Spring Boot dev tools module.
Okay, so let's move on to databases. What databases have you used? I know you said Mongo in your last project, but before that, what RDBMS have you used?
RDBMS, I worked with MySQL, then SQL Server, and then Oracle 11j environment as well. Also worked with another one like.
So all these questions are RDBMS, so let's stick to RDBMS. What's the primary key in the database?
Primary key in a SQL, like a page, like it's on a table, what it does is that it identifies each one record in a table, database table, and then the primary keys, they must contain like unique values, so that's the thing.
Okay, what's the foreign key?
Yes, sure. So the foreign key in SQL is nothing but, for example, it's used to link to couple of tables together, and it's like a field in a table that will refer to the primary key.
Okay, what's an index in a database, and what are the pros and cons of using an index?
Yes, sure. So index is like mostly used for like speeding up the performance of the queries. So it does by reducing the number of data pages that the visitors can primarily. So you could generally have like clustered and a non-clustered index that you can use. And clustered index you sort and store the data. Non-clustered you have like a software separate from the data. So those things like this.
Okay, but what is the cons of using it?
Like I could say like something like disadvantages of this index. So one of those is that like primarily one of the interesting things is that if you're doing like a lot of old OLTP, right, online like transaction processing, so you have to add like some of the data that you're reverting back, then you might be opposed to like a lot of read operations getting stuck. So that's one of the things with like the disadvantage or con of using indexes. And also another one thing is that there is some overhead as well. For example, if you automatically have an index on a column, then the primary keys are declared as unique, then sometimes it might be an overhead where the index itself occupies space on the disk and memory. So there might be like space or memory issues that when you have too many indexes, that could be one for like most of the platform.
Okay. What is a candidate key?
Yeah, like you want to say candidate key? Yeah, sure. So primarily candidate key is something like if you wanted to use any column or a combination of columns, you can qualify that as a unique key, so it's kind of like a candidate key. And generally there can be multiple candidate keys in table as well. And candidate key, I could say something like it might be qualified as a primary key as well. Okay.
Okay. What's the difference between a truncate and a delete?
Yeah, sure. So primarily truncate with delete is like, delete is like a more like a DML command. Delete operations, they can be rolled back when undone. And truncate operations, so they cannot be rolled back, like I said. And also another difference is that truncate is not rolled back after performing truncate something like delete span. And also truncate, it actually lost the entire table. Delete lost the table row. Okay? And trigger, I think another one is the trigger is not filed by truncate, whereas trigger is filed when you say delete.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure. So what's an inner join?
Yeah, sure. So inner join is like you have different join segments in your offer. But inner join is like, for example, if you get all the rows from both the tables, like whenever you have a match between the columns, then I could say it's like an inner join.
Okay, and what's outer join?
Yeah, sure. So the outer join is the thing where, like, the outer join, what it does is that it will return the records having matching values. Like, it will return all the records from the left table and the matched records from the right table. Oh.
Okay. What is the having clause and how does it differ from a where clause?
What is that one? Having clause and a variable clause?
No, having clause and how does it differ from a where?
Okay. Yeah. So where clause, like I could say, like primarily if you wanted to say filter the rows, like you can actually use that where, and it applies to each and every row. Whereas like while having is like used to filter the groups itself. That's one of the things with having this where. Okay? And whereing is like conditional on individual rows, having clause conditional on aggregation set.
Okay. In terms of database transactions, what is ACID? ACID, what does that stand for?
Yeah, sure. So ACID is like, I could say more like atomicity, consistency, isolation, or durability. Like those are like properties that you can actually apply on a database transaction family, like something like ACID properties.
So what are the levels of isolation?
Levels of isolation for this one? Yeah, sure. So primarily there are different levels. For example, like a serializable or like dirty read or read committed, read uncommitted. Then you have phantom read. Okay.
What is a two-phase commit?
Yeah, what is a two-phase? Yeah, sure. So if I remember perfectly, like I think it's kind of a transaction process. So it's kind of like a ATP, right? It's part of like various networking primarily in the database. So in generally, you can implement a two-phase commit to provide like multi-document updates. Like if you wanted to have a data that is consistent, and then you want the state to be transaction to be like reverse as well. So you generally say that as a two-phase committed.
So if you have two or more transactions in the same database, you think I'll need a two-phase commit?
Yeah, like in the database, if you have like two or more transactions. Yeah, so primarily you can do like a two-phase commit, right? For transaction, yeah, I could say that a transaction across multiple databases. Yeah.
Transaction across what?
No, I was mentioning like a transaction across like multiple databases in the same instance. Then the two-phase commit will not guarantee that the distribution transaction can't fail, right? So it just like helps in doing that.
Okay. I think I'm good here. Do you have any questions I could answer?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much for taking your valuable time. So one quick question is, just wanted to know like what is your current team size and what kind of services you're using that will be helpful.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, like what is your current team size and what is your current infrastructure like?
So what is the current team size? We're about, so as I said, we're opening a new office here in the White Plains area in New York. And we're currently about 16 people. I think we're going to expand to about 40 people. So that's like the team size. So within that, there will be, teams of 4 to 6 people working on various applications or services or verticals.
Okay. Cool. Perfect. Yeah. So that sounds good. So I think just wanted to know. And also, are you using like Spring Boot? Like, what is your backend database?
Yeah, we're moving to AWS. We're using Spring Boot for all our microservices, Spring Boot Docker. For backend, we're still figuring out what we're going to use. A lot of it is going to be new development, so we're still in some early phases of evaluation and design for some of our choices.
That's great. Actually, we are like heavily on AWS right now as well. So AWS cloud right now we have close to 6,000 instances. Yeah,
that's good to know.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, and thank you for and have a great rest of the day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.